Now, rights of data principles, right to access information. And in the meantime, I'll take a brief pause. Surbhi, is there any question that you feel that needs to be asked right now? Although we'll take questions towards the end, but any one or two main question that you'd like to ask right now? Maybe a single one theme.
Yeah, so I saw that we had mentioned even the employee data taken by the company is something that is confidential and will cover under this DPDP Act. So just
Right.
wanted to know because I believe it is also something which is dominant relationship. So how will the companies ensure that the consent, like you mentioned, should be freely given in such kind of relationships where it is very often that your position can be used against it, and because the employee would want that position, he's more likely to give that information to the company.
Yeah. So see, again, I would say at the time of offer only, offer appointment letters, companies do mention that we would need your educational qualifications and KYC details, means the Aadhaar, PAN, those kind of things. And they're very legit uses, if I may say so. So I think the appointment letters, the offer letters should be worded in such a way that if the employee or the prospect is accepting those offers and signing those appointment letters, they are giving their consent. So maybe some specific clauses of express consent have to be mentioned in those letters conspicuously. They can't be hidden in annexures here and there. It has to be conspicuous clause of consent under the DPDP Act, and not just the providing of the data, even the background verification that has to happen for employees before they're joining or even after they're joining. So all some of this data may need to be given by the company to the agency. So in that case, that becomes a data processor also. So all that consents have to be there, and companies have to then ensure proper contracts between them and the data processor, that this data doesn't get leaked or misused in the hands of the data processor, being that agency also. I think if these consents and notices as per the act are done, then I think it should be in safe place.
And I believe the right to withdraw your consent is also something which should be there so that there's no point left that you were forced to give your consent. They always have the right to withdraw their consent as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But the practical challenges that will come, Surbhi, is that now an employee gives the right to, to use that data. We do background verification. Then, during the course of employment, the employee says, I withdraw my consent from Aadhaar card, PAN card. These will become very superficial kind of infructuous provision. So one has to see withdrawal. I'm sure the rules will clarify in detail what kind of withdrawals are permitted at what time, for what purposes, etc., etc. Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Surbhi. So I see there are a few more questions in the Q&A, which we'll probably cover towards the end. So I think from a structure perspective, I'll take 15 more minutes for the presentation, and by 1:15, 1:20, we'll do few Q&A. By 1:20, we'll do some Q&A. Till 1:20, I'll continue with the presentation. Okay. Rights of data principles. Now, which is all of us, which is you and I, right to access information. So, if any data fiduciary is taking our data, we have a right to know a summary of what kind of data are you taking from me, although I'm only giving it, but then I need to know what kind of data you are collecting, how are you processing, which all other data fiduciaries and processors sort of are you sharing this with, and any other information related to my data. So again, this remains to be seen now, because historically, organizations versus individuals, there's a complete power mismatch. Means I asking to say people like Zomato, Swiggy, where are you sharing my, to who all you are sharing my data to, etc., etc. Maybe the answers don't come one to one. The answers are embedded in their probably FAQs, in their privacy policies, in their consents, in their notices, all that information, because they are dealing with millions and millions of users. So, of course, they will not reply to each of us personally, but all these things, I'm sure they will also be. uh, and 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 when I say they, that they could be you today, like you also representing your organization. So one, you are looking at this act from an individual perspective where you are the data principal. On the other hand, people who in organizations, you are representing a data fiduciary or maybe a data processor also. So I think you have all the two three hats to be seen of how we seek consent, how we minimize, how we share the notices, consents, etc. Okay, right to correction and erasure. This I think we've covered. If there's a wrong data captured, incomplete data, we have a right. So for example, again on a lighter note, I went to Shoppers Stop once and I was getting my account created, and they misspelled my name, and because I spoke it out and they didn't see any Aadhaar PAN, and they were creating my membership, and they misspelled my surname. And to a person, if the name is misspelled, I mean there's a worst thing that can happen to a person. And I immediately asked them, looking at my SMS, I said, this name is wrong, the spelling is wrong and it sounds very weird. And they said, sir, for that now you have to raise a request to our this mail ID. They will take 15 days, this, that, whatever. So I mean, um, those processes being the processes, but a data principal does have a right to correct any wrong personal information captured anywhere, and organizations have to sort of comply with that. Right of grievance redressal. So in case any data principal has any grievance with respect to how your data is collected, stored, shared. If you have any complaints, grievances, you can raise your concerns. Any act or omission regarding any act or omission by the data fiduciary or consent manager, any failure to fulfill. So if you feel that something is getting breached, the data fiduciary is not complying with the spirit of the law, you feel that your data is getting breached, etc. You have a right to complain, and these. For significant data fiduciaries, these complaints will be to the data protection officer, which is a mandatory position. For all companies, we will still see what kind of the data protection officer doesn't seem to be mandatory for every organization. But of course, there has to be somebody taking care of DPDP compliances, and therefore the complaints have to go there. Now, a data principal has a right to nominate, to act on her behalf in the event of death or incapacity, etc., etc. Now, data processing principles. The data must be processed as per the provisions of law, lawful purpose, after the consent has been obtained, and only for legitimate uses. This is the spirit, letter and spirit of the law, by the fiduciary and the processor both.
Welcome to Complinity Technologies. Complinity is India's leading governance, risk and compliance software helping companies to manage their compliance, contracts, litigation, legal updates, inter-financial controls and more. Complinity is a one-stop shop for all GRC needs. With our proprietary 12 GRC modules and real-time legal updates on 2,000 plus laws and 24,000 plus compliances, all in an integrated platform that is easy to use with automated alerts and risk management capabilities, is why compliance managers, general counsels and chief financial officers choose Complinity every time. Join the most innovative and prestigious brands that use Complinity. Automating your compliance management. Request a demo at complinity.com.